You've got bow, bam,
Boob.
and bomb.
There's no boobs here. It is bow, bam, and bomb. Welcome to New Game Plus. This is a retro gaming podcast where three guys spend 7 days playing one old game and then we talk about it. My name's Dustin.
My name is Kenny.
I'm Nolan and you can't see me.
And this is episode 404. Welcome back, Nolan. You miss all the time.
Thanks.
We missed you last week. We're glad
What
that you're back.
happened? Okay. I come back to chaos.
Yeah.
We transmorphed you into Garlisle and had a great episode.
That part's great. No, it was a good episode. I listened to the whole thing, and you guys did a great job. But the vote would have gone a different way.
I'm sure. I'm actually so glad you were gone. Not because you were gone, but because the outcome was the one that I wanted. Not even so much for that game, but for like retribution for how wrong we were about Civilization.
Nope, that's
2.
correct.
Nolan not being a fan of Alpha Centauri shocks me.
Absolutely shocked.
Question of the week.
Hit me.
What is a video game series that you gave up on?
So, which one do you want to know?
Nolan has given up on virtually every single video game series he's begun.
I don't have time for bad games, and there are a lot of bad games.
But you always
let me just
start
tell you.
playing them. That's the thing. I don't start playing them, so I don't have to give up on much.
Well, it's usually because I hear that it's good, and then it's not. And people are just wrong. My answer is Assassin's Creed. I played...
Hold
listen
on.
to me.
Not
I
with the
played
preface of like so many bad games.
It's a bad... I played the first game. I get
Holy
it.
hot
I got
takes.
it. I understand the hype. I see why people like it. I thought it was good. I played the second one. No, I didn't play the second one. The next one I played was Black Flag, and I was
Pirates.
done forever. I'm good on that series. Even
Which
the good
is-
ones. I know you want to tell me to go play 2. That's the one, right? No, I don't feel like it.
I don't want you. I don't think you deserve Assassin's Creed. I don't want you to play any of them.
I probably don't, honestly, but that's my answer 100% is Assassin's Creed.
Kenny?
So there's plenty of answers I could also pull from, but I wanted to live sort of retro and talk a series that you guys may not remember or that we've talked about as much. And I'm going to give you your pick because you can interpret this either way and it will be accurate either way. The Might and Magic series. There were two
I
branches
gave up
of.
on that one. Those two.
There's the Heroes of Might and Magic series, which I love.
To say I even
and
started on
there's also
that series
a more typical
is a stretch.
RPG style branch as well, and I think they kept making them after some point that I played them, but sometime years ago, decades ago, I played whatever the next entry was in both of those series and just felt like they were taking them in wrong directions, and I was kind of heartbroken, and I haven't played more modern ones at all. And I'd love to.
Well,
if they were
we're
good.
gonna tell you congratulations. You made the right decision on that.
Yeah, you did. But I'm really curious what Dustin's
I'm not convinced.
answer is because Dustin finishes every series. Like, actually.
Even if it's
every game everything he starts.
It's not
Yeah.
true, but there is a kernel of truth there because I feel like, first of all, I make judicious decisions. So before I even start a game
You
or
do.
series, I commit to it.
Yep.
And then, even if it's bad, I want to see it through to see what redeeming qualities there are.
Which is arguably a mistake in some cases.
Yeah, sure. There are two that come to mind, and you can say what you will with it. Kingdom Hearts. I played the first one years ago because Nolan, you and a few others really wanted me to because it involves Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
I played through the first one entirely, and it just never clicked with me. And so I had no desire to move forward. Although I'm sure I would love Kingdom Hearts 2 more than Kingdom Hearts, I still think that the series just isn't for me.
No, you made the right choice. You did. You would get very mad at that series if you continue to play it because it makes no sense, and that's why people
Just
love it.
because
But
It gets
nonsense.
crazier and crazier.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
here's one that I maybe admittedly quit a little bit prematurely, but I didn't care for the characters, and that was a big thing for me. The Uncharted series. When I finally
that one.
got a PlayStation 3, I played Uncharted 1, I played Uncharted 2, and then I was a little bit into Uncharted 3, and I was like, I just don't care anymore. And I set it down.
I never even touched them, but I know that I would quit it
Oh,
the first game.
for sure.
don't
But
know
you
why.
could say that about most things. Those are two of mine. I also thought about the new Zelda stuff, Breath of the Wild series, if you call that a series. This is not
Sub-series.
for me, but
It's not for me either. Don't worry.
neither here nor there. If you want to join in on the conversation, talk to Kenny.
Yeah, there is a channel in Discord waiting for you to tell Dustin how wrong he is.
Always me.
Yeah, of course. Hop in our Discord channel and you will find question of the week. We'd love to hear your input on games you guys started and couldn't keep
I
going.
might read it.
And why?
I might read it.
Wow.
That's the truth.
No, you've hit rock bottom. I don't know. The problem is I thought it was genuinely funny and
No.
and I just
Stop there.
Oh, you smashed it on that
Stop.
one.
like in our retro game of the week, Gym Smashers.
Overview.
Gym Smashers is a puzzling little video game that came out of a developer in Italy, Frame Studios, published by Metro 3D. It's a GBA title, the Game Boy Advance, and dropped here in North America in 2003, as well as in Japan. This was a game developed by a small team of people.
Like one?
Only three of them.
Okay.
Only three.
Yeah.
So one guy doing all the work while to watch him do it.
Hey, that sounds familiar.
Oh man.
Teams of three can do a lot of things. And I said it's a puzzling little game because it's a puzzle video game. You play as your choice of
Pokemon.
Of Pokemon. Somebody watched my first play because it's a good reference. Where you choose who your character is going to be, and then use that character to navigate them through a series of sort of skill-based
Skill.
color matching, blow up the gym and block puzzle style game that sounds confusing because I'm bad at descriptions, but also is because it's a little bit confusing.
You call it a puzzle game, and I guess if that's just a very
You have to call it something.
yeah you got it, but it's
Right.
really just like a Flash mobile
Feels like a Flash game.
block breaking game.
Can we just agree it's not an action RPG?
Well, maybe depends on how you look at it.
Hey, I wrote
does-
some fanfic of Bao Bam and Bomb this week. So.
It reminds me of the Flash era in
Yeah.
computer class.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
like I wouldn't even want to put it in the same category as like the other gym games like Bejeweled and whatnot. It doesn't fit there to me.
No. Yeah, and we'll talk about why it's so different as we
Yeah.
get into the episode, but I agree. This one sort of stands apart.
You mentioned the NGP status game Bejeweled, Nolan,
Yeah.
which is one of the few puzzle games that we played on the podcast. I'm sure we played a few others. Do y'all recall any? I can't.
Chips Challenge
Yeah.
Yep.
early
That's it. Yeah.
and others for sure. We've played a handful. I don't remember them, but I do know we have.
I'm so glad you brought up Chip's Challenge.
You love
it's a
that game.
That game is an absolute
It was
banger
good.
and defined my
It was
childhood.
good. Oh, and that other one, the Great Machine, the Amazing Machine, the Amazing
Yes!
Spider-Man,
That's
That's a
Amazing
puzzle
Spider-Man.
game too. Yeah,
Nolan's
we
memory.
played some PC title puzzle games, but not as many in this style because
Yeah.
this is for GBA.
Well, it's handheld, yeah.
and so it feels handheld, and so because of that, it almost feels like a mobile game, even though it's not a mobile game.
And by that, I think you mean phone game, because it certainly is a mobile game.
Yes, absolutely.
It's
know.
mobile.
People contextualize well.
I love the GBA, and I've never played a bad game on it. And so
False.
coming into it this
Cat.
week, I was hesitantly hopeful because, like I just said, GBA I have a fondness for since we started this podcast, and I'll correct myself. The majority of the games that we pull are spectacular. There have been some not great ones.
I think the standard for us on the show should be, oh, sick, a GBA title, or, oh, no, a Spyro Orange. Like, that's a category of itself that's separate that we don't even want to look at. Yeah. So keep that in mind going forward with this episode.
But, like, that also exists on GBA is what
We don't talk about that little tidbit.
Okay, so then I can continually say that GBA is the best console and there's no bad game.
Oh,
on it.
yeah. I fully do not
course.
recognize that Spyro game as a GBA game.
Okay, good. Then we have no problems, and we're not scared about talking about Gym Smashers or playing it this week.
Gameplay.
We alluded to it, but the first thing you do when this game is pulled up, outside of seeing a tiny little cutscene that sort of sets up some story that's whatever, is you choose your character. You've got 3 of them, and I don't know if I can remember which one's names associate with each character, so you guys will have to set me straight. You've got Bow, Bam, and Bomb.
There's no boobs here. It is Bow, Bam, and Bomb, all 3-letter names, and they are basically Knuckles, Tails, and Sonic in that order. And so
it's Charmander, Bulbasaur, and Squirtle.
Pikachu? Look at I know. Okay, I'm assuming that you want to
Yellow.
I'm
Yellow
in the
bird.
middle of talking.
No, you don't get to
both
talk.
got to have your say of 1, 2, 3 what they were, and I didn't get to.
But you missed your chance.
No, three characters, 3 podcasters, 3 developers, 3 times that I'm going to interrupt you for free before you're allowed to get angry. That was number 1.
Nolan wants to defend Sonic, and I understand. That's fine. We're not talking about the game Sonic here. We're talking about the characters, and it is very clear to me that these developers were banking on Sega buying their game that they created and making it a Sonic IP. You've got those 3 characters. Look at them!
You do have a blue thing that looks sort of hedgehogish that is the character that goes
exactly.
fast. I'll give you that one.
No, that one. And then you've got Bam, which is yellow, and that's your Tails stand-in. And then you've got Bow, which is Knuckles, who is red and has the most power, which makes sense for the character of Knuckles.
Where's Eggman?
Look at the cover art. Look at the cover art. There is a little round spaceship type thing with a character with a scientist in it.
I don't buy that the yellow preemptive Angry Bird character is supposed to be a direct correlation to Tails.
Is this confirmed?
However,
Names aside?
I can
look at it.
No, this is
that's not
conspiracy theory in Dustin's head only.
Yeah, that's a conspiracy.
This is insane
Irrelevant.
of how clear this is.
If he was on the jury, if they were getting sued and he was on the jury for like intellectual property infringement, he would say this company is guilty. And that's what Dustin would say. And I would say they've just played video games before and maybe were sort of inspired by those characters.
Look at the cover art and tell me this is not a Sonic wannabe.
It's not. And it doesn't play anything like a Sonic game. That the only thing that really lines up is that your blue character is the character that wants to go fast. Each of your characters have some stats.
Mm-hmm. Like cars.
Okay, no, I'm stopping you. I'm stopping
cars.
My first this is the second interruption. You interrupted me. I'm interrupting you.
No, you're allowed
because
3.
y'all. One of the zones is called Green Hill. You're telling me that is not a Sonic reference?
That's not a Sonic reference. That's inspiration. That's not a reference.
Green Hill?
If it was called Green Hill Zone, you'd have a lawsuit on your hands. It's not called that.
They got as close as humanly possible without having to go to court here.
What other colors are hills?
Exactly. What are they going to say? Brown Hill?
No, that you can't. Brown Hill doesn't
Sound
sell.
good. All right.
That's too ploppy.
You have 3 game modes here. Two of them at least function the same. You've got your battle mode where you can battle your friends. Can't really do that as easily today. And then you've got story and arcade mode. And I would imagine that we played majority story mode this week.
Yeah, for sure.
I did some story, some arcade.
Same.
I didn't feel the need to do much arcade.
No.
Right after I did it once, I was like, I'll just keep doing the story.
Story, there's not really much story to it. You are on an overworld, surprisingly enough, and in Kenny's first play, he realized this slowly, but like, you don't have to go stage 1 to stage 2. You can,
which is still so weird,
and it doesn't matter. Like, it
doesn't make
really,
sense.
You have to play them all anyways to get to the boss. So like,
why have the world map if you don't follow the rules of a world map? Like, Mario didn't just do that for fun. Like, there's a point.
And you don't have to clear all the Mario stages to unlock the boss stage. So like in this, you have to play all the stages leading up to each boss in each zone, like the Green Hill Zone. But you are moving on a world map, and you're moving slowly. And at each juncture, you choose which direction your character is going to continue to go. You then, once you cross onto a little orb, it tells you what the stage is, how many of the stages you're actually going to play in that particular stage, like 1-1, 1-2, things like that. And then once you select that, you are given the main purpose of this game, which is where your character forms as a ball in the middle of the stage. There are blocks above you, below you, to either side of you, and you begin to violently project from the top of the screen to the bottom of the screen while you direct kind of the momentum of your character into smashing blocks, ultimately smashing the same colored gems as your character's color at that given time. Once all the gems are cleared, you can exit the stage.
Alleyway ripoff.
Alleyway ripoff.
Yeah.
Explain.
It's Alleyway inspired 100%.
Is that a arcade game? I don't know Alleyway.
Excuse me?
Kenny doesn't either.
What's wrong with both of you?
What's wrong with you? Or do you have the name right?
It's the best Game Boy game of all time, next to Tetris. What are you talking about?
Never heard of Alleyway.
Okay, well look.
I just assumed.
What?
I actually assumed for fun you just like went downtown.
Stop.
And like wore different colored T-shirts and just ran around and bounced off some walls.
Okay, he kept talking.
I
gave him a chance.
No, this is showing your age. Do you want me to explain, or are you going to take offense?
Alleyway came out in like 2015, and he
absolutely
grew up
not. It came out in 91 or something.
Came out in 89, which that doesn't show your age. But what does show your age is what Kenny and my reference would be is Breakout. And maybe it shows me and Kenny's age. Alleyway is just a Breakout clone for the G.
What's Breakout? An arcade game?
Oh, what's Breakout? That's crazy. Yeah, no, Breakout is what this game that we're playing is, and what the game that you just mentioned is a clone of. It's an arcade video game, and it's where you're a little block at the bottom, and your ball flies up and breaks blocks, and you've got to break out.
Yeah, and so that's the core inspiration behind what they were going for here. What feels really strange out the gate is, so normally in those games in Alleyway, you're controlling the bar at the bottom and hitting and like trying to aim and catch and hit the ball that's moving independently of you, the player. You are the ball in this one, and it feels bad.
You are the ball,
and
you're bouncing off of everything, but you're also controlling the direction you go.
Left and right. Yeah. It feels bad. I hate it. Because I'm so used to the other way, I think, and it just felt cramped. But
it's a strange mechanic. It definitely takes some getting used to, because it doesn't really play like anything else, and it's relatively fast-paced. I mean, this isn't like frantic.
Well, it's also not hard. That's not the problem for me. It's not a difficult game. It's just
not for Nolan.
Uncomfortable. It's not difficult.
It's not an especially hard game.
Is it difficult for you, Kenny?
He did die.
Especially hard.
He got a game over.
I am not great at this game.
Wow.
That's all I'll say.
I mean, the later stages are easy. It never.
Yeah, it doesn't ramp up
Right,
difficulty.
it doesn't really get harder. I expected like to have to figure out, like complex puzzles as it went on.
I would
or,
have been
like,
okay with
unlock
that.
things, or it's kind of the same thing over and over. They add some variety, but
They had block types.
we're jumping in ahead of people really even understanding how this game works.
No, we're not. There's
step
nothing
back.
left.
We're going at a great
back and-
pace. Let's step in
No.
and continue to talk about the different mechanics of how you
Yeah,
play.
and how this game works. Exactly. Dustin tried to explain it by saying you turn different colors and then you got to hit those colors.
Generally, yes. And then we get specific after that. So I did a great job.
Right. Yeah, you did. And we're a good team, the three of us. Here's what happens. There are specific blocks that change your character's color. So you can't just do that willy-nilly. There's not a button to hit to change color. It's not something that happens like on a rotation. You have to physically navigate your character to a specific block and hit that block. When you do, your character changes colors and can break other environments on the screen,
Gems, mostly.
gems that are that same color. There are also blocks that aren't gems that are colorless that you can break regardless of your color, that have like stuff hidden behind them, or that you have to break through to get to other things or have secrets. But the main like gem color swapping that's sort of puzzle-ish happens by manually taking your character to a place, changing your color, and then clearing related gems.
There are obstacles in the way as you're doing that try to make it a little bit more difficult. One of the main ones are these death blocks, which, by the way, usually I want to use the correct verbiage when talking about certain video games. So I'll look up a guide, or I'll look up the manual that came along with the game, or I try to look up a game facts page, anything.
No information. Or everybody calls it whatever
There's
they
no
want.
PDF scan of this manual online that I
booklet.
could find. No booklet. There's no game facts page for this game.
You could just email the developers, but you don't speak Italian.
I speak a little.
It's a me.
Mangia means eat.
I looked and looked and looked, and there is very little on this game. I'm surprised it has a Wikipedia page. The Wikipedia
I
page
was
is
too.
very short.
It's so
You can
short.
text all of this information to somebody, but
Yeah.
I wasn't able to find anything. So I'm gonna call them death blocks because that's
It seems
a
appropriate.
Good, yeah, that's a good word for it.
Or Scullies.
Skull Boys.
Skull Boys.
Yeah.
I like mine. And the moment you hit these, your character withers, dies, and screams, and you lose a life.
I'm gonna ask Kenny this question because I'm just curious. Do you think the hitbox on those is fair? The pixel on those is quite accurate? Because I kind of found myself a couple times being like, I didn't hit that.
Yeah. There were times that I was like, I did not just die. That like I did not, but I did. And so I'll agree. It could have been a little tighter.
But the screen is so small, so it is down to the pixel. Like that is how precise that becomes at that point because it's such a tiny screen. And that's why it does feel like a straight up phone game. That, and also because there's no Wikipedia page. It was like one of those bottom of the barrel releases. I don't know.
I think with a small screen and with the mechanics of the game, as long as you had good handling, then you would be able to function with that limited screen space.
Yeah.
But I felt at times like there was a magnet towards blocks or death blocks, or like it always
it had
felt
a weird
off.
sort of rubber bandy kind of feel. Not in that you were like swinging, but in that just there was like
I'll tell you what it feels like.
I don't know, like sludgy or something.
It feels like, okay, so when you're developing a game and you spin up the first iteration of it, and it's like, okay, I added movement to my character, and there's no like other extra physics to help it feel like snappy or like there's weight to it. It just feels completely like paper, like you're moving paper on a table. That's what that felt like. And I think they did it. They spun it up. It worked. And they were like, okay, physics done.
Yeah, I just want to circle back to this game was developed by 3 people. I think a lot of what
one
we're
and two
going
watched,
to say.
apparently.
I think I'll say one person. I think a lot of what we're going to say comes down to a team of 3 people. You know, like there's
they is kind of not the right word to use. That guy. Though, it's probably one programmer, an artist, and maybe a business guy. You know?
A gym aficionado.
A jeweler.
One of the things that I thought was interesting, let's be charitable, is that based on the character that you select, you have a different starting region. I don't know if you spent any time with other characters. I would assume, this is my total guess, and I hope that I'm right, probably won't be, that Nolan spent the majority of his time with Sonic, Bomb this week. Kenny spent the majority of his time with Bao this week, the Knuckles character, and I spent my time, I'm going to be right on mine, with Bam, the Tails character, kind of right in the middle.
You're right. I spent my time with the blue character, not Sonic.
I started with Bao, but then I moved to Bomb.
You moved to the fast one?
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that did not.
I moved to Bam.
Okay,
They have
you moved to...
their names, dude. I can't.
The names are so
close.
confusing.
I
moved to Angry Bird. It's a yellow Tweety.
Which I think is a good middle ground. I started with Bam. I didn't realize until I switched to Sonic that the stats really do matter. With his lower power, you have to hit those blocks so many times to break them.
Right. Which is kind of why I take issue with the name of the game called Gem Smashers. You spend most of your time hitting blocks, actually, like rocks. So yeah, that was my least favorite part of, which adds length to the stages. So what? I hate that. That's artificial. That's just extra work you have to do, and that's why it's not a puzzle game.
If you only had the gems and not the gems plus the breakable minerals,
that's what Breakout has.
It would
Alleyway has.
Be too simple.
Wait, Alleyway's just the bricks, and y'all's game is gems?
No, it's bricks, but
we're all bricks.
That's the comparison here.
Brick smashers.
And I don't mind it. And listen, going back to those 2 references as being the bar at the bottom of the screen, I even kind of like the idea of you're moving and controlling the character, the ball, the circle, whatever. I think that there's something fun there, and then not dying to hitting the. So if you take out all the blocks on the bottom or the top, you can still hit the bottom or the top of the screen.
Yeah,
you're
you don't
not
fall.
Dead. I like that,
right.
and I was
think
worried
you
about
should have
that.
had that. I think that should have been in the game.
That would have made it a lot more tough.
Well, that would have added
a
puzzle and
platformer.
strategy and thought to it.
Right.
Okay, I can't break this one, but I need to hit it now.
Right.
Anyway.
And the way that it's set up, you can pretty much, after you get the basics of it, turn off brain. Because as long as you're not hitting those death blocks, or every once in a while this random, poison drop, which we can talk about some of the drops, then you're really not having to turn your brain on until ... the boss fights.
The bosses.
So there's bosses in this game.
Yeah, there's
Which
a story.
is so strange. I like it because it's sort of genre bending and it adds a little bit of variety, and this game needs variety. I like some of the ideas of change your color, and that's how you deal with bosses, still navigating in the world and killing them. But beyond that, I was kind of
the implementation for me, the idea, I agree, needs this. The implementation is no different. It's just brain off. Hey, a boss fight.
And because as interesting as some of the bosses do look, they all function relatively the same way. And so they're going to come on the screen. They all have a gem on their body somewhere that changes colors. And you need to be that color and hit that part of their head or, their fin or whatever else. As that color, you do that 4 times or so, and the boss is dead. There's not much to it.
yeah, and not a ton of strategy there either. If you want to just stay a specific color and wait until the boss shows up with that color at some point and hit them. Like, you're
Right.
going to be able to get through the boss that way. And so, yeah, it's a little, again, could have been cooler. I wanted to like them.
I'm going to ask Dustin this question because it's the most likely out of all three of us. Did you beat the game?
No.
Sometimes you do.
No,
Okay.
you can in just a couple of hours. I just didn't have the desire to.
Fair.
We've referenced it a few times. It really, Nolan, you said Flash era, and yes, but also just like phone game. I mean, phone
Early
game,
phone.
right? Early
Right.
phone game.
Early
And there
phone,
are
yeah.
some of those mindless phone games that
Yes.
just scratch this weird primitive itch, and
Yes.
they work. So there's not much creativity or challenge behind it. It's just something to do, right? And this
Yes.
could have been that, but what is it missing, or what are some of the things that it's missing that, because it's almost there, I feel like.
You've said it, turn brain off. I wanted to have to think.
Same.
The only thing I was thinking about was not hitting the death blocks. I definitely wanted to try and maximize, the faster you clear, you get bonus
Yeah.
points. And so there's rewards for going fast. There's rewards for unlocking and picking up things that are worth extra points. Like, there's ways to be more efficient. But, like, generally speaking, I didn't ever feel like, oh, that's clever, or I got to figure out how to deal with this. It seemed like there were things that were different, but they still were all self-evident to me. And so, I don't know, it felt almost more like fast twitchy as a game than it did puzzly as a game. And I don't know, that's
think-
not what I was expecting.
Because they locked themselves to a single screen per stage, they needed more block types. It would have helped the progression, the feel of progression in the game, and maybe ramp the difficulty in a more interesting way. But I don't think they introduced enough of them. They introduced some. And the poison thing, maybe, but that's what it was missing for me, because that's what causes you to think differently. And I didn't think about it until you said it, but if you could fall, I think that would add an interesting threat and cause you to play the stage differently, which is interesting instead of brain off.
I think that might be it. If they would have made it to where if you hit the top or the bottom of the screen, not the sides, but the top or the bottom without a block there, then you die. And how they could have, because they've got blocks in this game that are not breakable,
Right.
so they could still protect you in certain times.
It'd be
or
fair still.
It would be still
Or-
fair, but have to be active and paying attention.
Or any number of things. Every time you hit one of the outside walls, it slows down your character, and
Sure.
you get slower and slower until
Something.
you hit a reset button or something. Something that makes it a challenge to
Dynamic.
think about either where you're going or the order you're going to hit the gym blocks in. Maybe every time you turn a color you hit one of those things, you can only blow up so many blocks. So you got to make sure you blow up the ones that are blocking other ones first so that you do it in the right order. There's a million ways they could have tweaked the formula and made you have to think about what you were doing. Instead, it was just push the buttons, push the buttons.
I think another fatal flaw has to do with different starting areas, which I like that idea. But when you do it like that, and then you have to play all the worlds to be able to beat the game, they can't really scale difficulty like that. And so the
Right.
game is not getting harder the more you play. It's kind of all just the same. And yeah, some stages are harder than others because there's either more death blocks or there's less time or whatever, but you get to a new world and it's going to start elementary again. So like it all starts over. Some of that with these phone games is it does progress in difficulty as you go along, and this game just doesn't.
Aged.
I think puzzle games have an edge on a lot of other games in that they
do.
have the ability to age well. Because
sure.
and also handhelds. This
Yeah.
one, everything should be making this
Right.
game timeless.
Because when you play these kinds of games, you're not playing for the graphics. You're not playing, and as long as the game is good to begin, or like the challenge, the puzzle is good to begin with, then 10 years later, 20 years later, it's still going to be good, right? Because it's a puzzle. Like, it's not based on any kind of particular time period.
Yeah, alleyway
Yep.
This is a good example. And
Stop saying
and the one y'all talking about,
alleyway.
Bricked Up or whatever. That one's
I don't know
that's
if
why
it's
they
called.
age well, because they're solid. They're kind of brain off too. That's the market.
is fine.
That's fine. There's a market for this game. Believe it or not, people like these kinds of games.
The brain on variations of these are better. Tetris has more.
sure.
Tetris is very brain on.
Stay-
That's reaction
power
too. That's a
than-
very interesting game compared to this.
It is. That one's interesting because it's both, and
Yeah.
that's why I bring it up. It's got skill. It's
got a
but
time
you're
factor.
Also puzzling, and so it's kind of similar in that it's sort of both things, like this game is trying to be.
But on the GBA is awkward, and I'll tell you why. This makes sense on a phone, 100% to me, because there are so many throwaway, like, and I'm talking like post Snake, like post Nokia, early smartphones. This is what you were finding on the App Store, like made by one guy kind of thing. So when you have that kind of game on the GBA, for me, and I think for a lot of people at the time, a lot of kids at the time, even kids know this, you expect a level of quality with a cartridge game versus a flash game versus a phone game. And it's immediately noticeable to me that the quality was not here on this game. And so it kind of feels it kind of feels like it doesn't belong on the system.
Yeah, I don't know what the price was when this game came out, but like you're willing
would've
to
been too
pay
much.
$1.99 for a crappy phone game that can
Versus
be mindless.
$30.
But that's not okay to pay $30 for a
$40
game.
maybe?
right.
For a game for like an actual video game cartridge that you want to sink some time into.
You're adding
So-
to your library. You're adding Gym Smashers to your library, and you purchase that at Walmart. They have to take slide the thing to get it for you. Like it's a ritual, and you get home and it feels like this problem.
You are not playing these games for the graphics, and that's a good thing. I don't think the graphics are bad here, but they're not great. I think where they shine, quote unquote, is in the bosses. I do think some of the bosses look nice, look interesting.
And I think character design, outside of them maybe being derivative of the three characters, I said maybe,
Nah.
is they're fine, they're cute, you know, like they
they're
that could
not.
work. They are okay. The Sonic looking character
He's
is
kind of cursed
janky as all
looking.
get out, but the other two are adorable. But yeah, I don't know if it's because blocks have so many colors and you have so much going on that it's just hard to fill that amount of space without it feeling overly like visually full and saturated and like too busy. I don't know if it was color scheme that they went for or if they were depending too much on having these different colored blocks and not changing enough the look of them, but it felt it felt too much, too samey, and too like I don't know.
I'll
I'm
tell
with
you,
the visuals did not do anything for me. Is what I'm saying.
many GBA games fell short graphically because of this reason. They did a poor job of blending like pixel art to distract you from the pixels, because again, the screen's so small. In Game Boy, you don't think of it because you're kind of locked into that. What is that? 8-bit, whatever. I don't know what GBA bit number is, but like you don't really care as much. And there are games on the Game Boy that did it extremely well, and of course on the Game Boy Advance, because we've played some and been like, man, this looks great. But on this one, they don't blend well. The edges are very harsh and sharp, and like you said, this it's just busy. It's extremely busy and ugly.
The backgrounds don't do anything to help with that, you know.
Yeah, they're fine.
You've got
But if anything, a little distracting.
Yeah, I think we all agree nothing is stand out here. But I don't think any of it is horrendous. But it's not GBA worthy because
No.
I've seen some really good GBA graphics before.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. But they're not like great
Right.
graphics. On another question though, I need to know, Dustin, what did this game do for you, Sonic?
I'm more
Stop.
offended by the music in this game. Some of it
And
is
his pun?
some of it hurts.
Didn't
He
even
got
catch
it now. It's not good.
You're supposed to ignore them,
it's
Nolan.
not-
No, that one was good.
Well, now I
I fully just derailed you. I'm sorry.
I don't. I think the music's really bad, and some of it is
Really
actually
bad.
offensive. Yeah, some of it is like.
Huh.
Some of it is someone
Grating.
went into GarageBand and started pressing buttons and came out with
Actually,
with this track.
that was the second guy on the team.
There are worse tracks than others. I wasn't overly offended by it. I felt like none of it was great, but some of it was okay. It all kind of fit the game. Like it all felt,
I guess.
I don't know. They needed a fourth guy. Maybe
They needed Hans
maybe a
Zimmerman
fifth.
to help with the music. It's terrible. It's terrible. That's all I'll say about it.
There are tons of ports of this game. It's crazy.
Sure, I played one of them this week.
Oh yeah. So I spent some time on the 3DS
3DS.
version. Did you?
Yeah.
Is that what
Yeah.
y'all? Oh,
Yeah, I
you
was
saw me
hyped to find out it was a 3DS remake.
You can play it on Wii. You can
Really?
play it on, unsurprisingly, iOS.
virtual
you can play it on
virtual console.
PS4. You can play it on PlayStation Vita.
And most recently?
You can play it on Nintendo Switch.
Yeah!
And you can play it on Xbox One.
I'm offended that this game is on all it's been kept up with on modern consoles when masterpieces are still sitting back on the PlayStation 1 and 2.
I bet it's pretty easy to port this one over.
Yeah, it's a drag and drop
Comparatively
file.
speaking.
It's 2 megabytes.
Drag and drop. But the thing is that's remarkable. Nolan and I spent some time with the 3DS this week. It's not drag and drop because they remade the game.
It's a remake.
They remade it, and from my experience and from what I've heard, each port is considerably worse than the one before it. So it only gets worse. Yeah, the 3DS graphics are by far worse than the GBA's graphics.
Oh, yeah. I would have said on par there, but it's bad.
Yeah.
It's like DS. It's like DS graphics,
It
not
is.
3DS.
You're right.
DS.
Totally right.
The Nintendo Switch version is looking like a
Right,
DOS
like
game.
it's just yeah.
Lagging.
Yeah, and I didn't try it this week, but maybe the iOS version is the preferable one because it's where it belongs. It's where the game was
Maybe.
coded for
No,
in the
yeah,
first place.
Probably. Hold on, I'm about to download it. Psych.
Oh yeah.
Who
For
added this to the list?
$1.99. We'll get to it. The person that added it to the list wrote in commentary this week.
I'm gonna destroy you.
If you want a GBA copy, it's $19 used or loose.
Oh.
Or it's $164 new.
You're kidding.
164.
Nolan,
You're joking.
you got to realize game collecting has nothing to do with popularity. Not nothing.
I know it. It doesn't have anything to do with
Little
quality.
to do with popularity.
necessarily.
Everything to do with rarity.
So they
that's
made
it.
2 of these games. That's all I'm gathering. I'm fine with that.
And if you want one of the two, it's $164. Nolan's got the other copy though, so you'll have to talk to him.
You could buy like life-saving medicine with that amount of money, but you're gonna buy Gym Smashers instead.
Do y'all want to hear where the series went after?
No, let's go to final thoughts.
I want to know.
The series went to Sonic 2 and Sonic
Stop.
3.
Cut him off. Cut his mic.
Final thoughts.
At the end of each and every one of our episodes, we determine whether or not the game gets our vote for New Game Plus status, which requires 2/3 of the vote to swing one way or the other. Kenny, yeah, what did you think? What are your final thoughts on Gym Smashers?
Okay, so I wanted to just say the real issue is that this is a mobile game and that you shouldn't play it here. But that didn't feel like really the whole story. The control scheme of this game and the general premise with like boss battles and everything, I don't even know if it really even translates to being a mobile game as well as even we've talked about so far. I don't know. The game just feels sort of like out of place. It's not like anything else, and it doesn't really know what it is. It's an okay little game, like for what it does. If you have a GBA and you want a kind of brain dead, skill based way to like do a puzzle and you want to play this one, like I'm not going to give you a hard time for it, but it did nothing for me. Like it's not puzzly enough. There's too many annoying gimmicks. It's too repetitive. Like it's okay, but it's not good, and I don't want to play it anymore. No New Game Plus.
Nolan, did you like it as much as Kenny did?
This game sucks. This game is going in the lowest tier when I do my end of year tier list. Don't look at me like that.
Hyperbole.
It is terrible. And I agree with Kenny, it doesn't know what it is. It's trying to riff on things that have worked in the past, on handheld and in the puzzle category, and fail on both accounts. It is like terrible quality for a physical cart game that I can't believe actually got made. And it probably is expensive because there are very few copies. It probably didn't do well and they quit, right? Don't play it. Any of the versions. For some reason, you can get your hands on it now. You just reach over on your nightstand and get your Switch and play it. You can do that. For some reason, don't. It's terrible.
There are much better puzzling games out there, and I'm sure there are even better puzzle games for the GBA. I don't know what they are, but I'm sure that they are out there. I probably won't rank it in my lowest tier. Maybe my lowest tier of the year, because we're only dealing with, 48, 50
right,
games?
You got to think about that.
The reason why I hesitated is because I just recently completed my 400 game tier list, and I had to have a lot of tiers there for all the games that we've ever played. My lowest one being the abysmal tier that include games like Spyro, Orange, Captain Planet, and the Planeteers, and the Wizard of Oz. Like, there are really, really, really terrible titles there. I don't think this one falls into that. I wasn't appalled this week. I was just bored. Like, it's just nothing. Worse games would be more fun to talk about, right? Like, we've had really good episodes with really good conversation about terrible games. This is just one of those that's just like, I will not remember this game tomorrow, and I will be better for it. So I definitely don't give Gem Smashers my vote for New Game Plus status, which means Gem Smashers is not New Game Plus certified. But what did you think on our YouTube poll this week? 5% said yes, it's worth playing today.
So 3 of those is the guys that made it. I don't want to know who the other 2% are.
10% said no, go play something else, and 85% have done the best thing for their life and never played it before. We had many from our community, many that played along and wrote in this week, a lot keeping their commentary brief, which is admirable. The official WNBA wrote in and said, Gem Smashers feels like the type of game your aunt would send you a Facebook invite to play.
Yep.
Dude, accurate.
That's
oh my
so
goodness.
Yeah.
That is such a burn.
Shadowman647 said, I'd rather work on a 1,000 piece puzzle and have more fun doing so than play Gem Smashers again. No NGP for me.
Same. I love puzzles.
Yeah, puzzles are fun. That's not
it's
a
a
good
family
He almost
event
says that
right
like
there.
it's a bad
Right.
thing.
That's a family event.
Give me a puzzle.
Jimmy said, with games, much like with movies, the worst thing you can be is forgettable. Everyone loves a great, well-made and polished game or movie, but there's also such a thing as so bad it's funny. Gotta love a good stinker once in a while. At least you can laugh about it and you'll remember it. Gem Smashers is one of the most aggressively 5 out of 10 pieces of media I've ever consumed. No NGP.
See, I couldn't even bring myself to laugh. Like, it wasn't so bad it's funny. It's just in my way.
Saying.
Get out of my way. I'm trying to have fun.
That's exactly what Jimmy's saying, and I'm close to what Jimmy's saying, except it's a 4 out of 10. Like, it's not in my opinion, 5 out of 10 is an average game. This is sub-average, maybe even a 3.
Man,
but it's
mine's
just
lower. Come on now. What?
3.
The forgettableness is a bigger problem even than the quality. Yeah.
Dustin's 5 o'clock shadow said, as sentient facial hair, I don't know much, but I do know that I didn't enjoy Gem Smashers enough to recommend it. The characters are kind of cute, but the game gets old very quickly. No NGP.
You gonna shave ever, or?
And finally, Lieutenant Pat X, who
Of course.
seems, submitted this game,
Of course.
wrote in, and said, over the past 3 years, I've had the pleasure of having some of my games featured in the show. Among them is Goblins, which has been met with pure love and enthusiasm from the community. In the case of Gem Smashers, the story will undoubtedly continue with further praise. Cough.
Okay.
To briefly recount, Gem Smashers will always be a reminder of the summer vacation in 2005 for me. During a bus journey from Germany to Spain, it was the only game I had on hand to escape the endlessly annoying fellow passengers.
Unlucky.
The 2D graphics were pleasant to behold, the gameplay a blend of Arkanoid/Pong, and yes, it's nothing breathtakingly amazing, far from it, but it's a unique entry on the list, so it will probably only receive my NGP, but that's from the bottom of my heart.
I love when people
one
have
does not.
full-on nostalgia.
I
And
don't
it
when it's
makes them
this.
just completely wrong about something. It's valid, but yeah, we've got to agree to disagree here.
For now, we are setting aside Gem Smashers, and we are not randomly selecting from our massive Retro Master list because it is once again time for a Patreon poll!
It's boogie time.
I've got a few stats from A Spot this week. It looks like we have 5 entries. That's the most, by the way, of any one particular game. So very
That's
varied.
quite a lot.
Yeah, but still very varied. We only have 5 entries of Pokemon Emerald for the GBA.
Interesting.
Oh, wow.
We have 4 entries of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, Soul Blazer, System Shock 2, and World of Warcraft. That would be
What?
dangerous.
Wait,
Guys,
how?
2004.
How are we gonna do that? We have to play the new version.
We'll have to figure
Classic
it out.
WoW.
If it gets pulled in a week's time, I want us to boot up
Level
Classic
80.
and get through just get through the first like level 20 dungeon
That's
together.
dangerous. If we all accidentally got into World of Warcraft again.
It's not for
It's
me.
very
I don't like
dangerous.
MMOs.
Okay. It's
Nolan says that
I know.
he hasn't cleared an instance with us before. I said, I'm having
Your
trouble.
We
flashbacks,
can't
me
play
too.
that. We
Me
can't
too.
play that.
Back in.
All right, we've got a lot of games in here. Some good, most not. Randomizing now. I'm really excited to share this one with y'all.
Okay.
That sounded sarcastic.
It is a game that is a later entry in its respective series.
Okay, so far, the game I think it is still viable.
This game came out for the PlayStation
I'm out.
in 2000.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
This game was submitted by 2 individuals, Dan Willett
Ooh.
Hey.
and Sasser.
Yeah.
It is a role-playing video game developed and published by Square. It is the 9th main game in the Final Fantasy series. We are playing one of the greatest Final Fantasies of all time, Final Fantasy IX.
It is the best Final Fantasy of all time.
Whoa! And I
I mean,
love that.
if you were to have me rank them, they would be number 1 for me for sure.
I love that.
It's amazing.
I also recently played it. Last year,
yeah.
maybe played it through because when they were starting to come out on Switch and like
Repixel or
everything available. Yeah, I just started picking
Yeah.
those up.
I'm gonna have to
Final
decide
Fantasy
where
IX
I want to play it.
in California.
Yeah, I was thinking outside.
Outside. So this is exciting for me. Okay, hold on, real quick, because I know we got to go. Have you played it before?
Kenny.
Oh, were you asking me? Because we know the answer for Nolan.
We know Nolan's and we know mine.
I've watched. I haven't played.
Oh, snap, you're in for a treat. Wait, do you remember it at all? Hopefully not.
Things about it.
Do you know?
Not all the
Do you know
details, but I
Zidane?
remember
Do you know
things about it.
Steiner? Do you know
Do you know
Vivi?
Garnet?
Do you know Vivi, the greatest Final Fantasy character of all time?
You got to realize that this is a little bit of a tall order because Final Fantasy IX is competing against Turkey and Stuffing this week.
Yeah. In the States, we got
And
Thanksgiving, but we're going to ignore our
we've got-
families, baby.
We got Thanksgiving this week, so it's not the best week for me to play an RPG that wants to like take over my whole life, but I'm going to give it the old college try.
You really only need to give this one 30 minutes and you'll know that it's beautiful and amazing and great. Anyways,
There's going to be a 30-minute cutscene just to start, and
Longer.
then like a 3-hour tutorial. I know how
Like
this
actually
goes.
longer.
I can tell you each scene by scene, basically. Find a copy of Final Fantasy IX. That's a big one, boys.
Steiner. Oh, best character.
And we're playing it together this week.
Join us in Discord, or you're lame. So I'll just tell you where to go. Discord.gg/NewGamePlus.
You're not lame.
Well,
Whatever Nolan says, if you support us by going to patreon.com and becoming one of our patrons. You'll be joining people like our newest patron, Dustin's Furrowed Eyebrows, who have upped their contribution this week. All caps, Abby, Mike, Jake, and an additional reference to some other body hair that Dustin has as well.
Oh, no.
Yeah. We want to say thank you to our director level supporters as well. Of course, Bro Jim, Miss Muso, Super Hypered, Siegfried, and Riff, who we will talk to soon. Can't wait. Thank you for your huge support. And to our large list of producer level supporters, including Adam, Alex, Marley, and Antonin, Ben, Big Dude, Brunk, Dustin's 5 O'Clock Shadow, Garlisle, Gimbin, Hallex, Harold, J. Robert, Jake, Jared, Joey, Jordan, Justin, Kenny's Beard, Clint, Nick, Nat, Corey, Levi, Maximum, Metroid, Megatroid, rather. Why does my brain do that? It's like I've got retro games on the brain. Nolan's Old Mustache, Not Enough Dog, Orlando, Workin' Punch, Pedro Sajan, Shane, Shauna, Psycho Mantis, Thomas Turtle, Unbedavable, and Zion. Thank you for your support. It's a mouthful, and I can't wait till that becomes even more of a problem for me every single week.
2 mouthfuls.
3 mouthfuls. It's an episode of 3s. Why couldn't you go to 3?
You can find us on our social media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, and YouTube. All of those links are in the show notes. Listen directly on any podcast provider of your choice. Make sure you subscribe so that you are the first to get new NGP episodes. And while you're at it, please leave a kind rating and review. Our video episode was edited by our friend Dylan. Our audio episode was edited and produced by our friend Dan Willett. Join us next week as we play Dan Willett's submitted game, along with Sasser's, Final Fantasy IX. Until then, I'm still a Tails ripoff.
I'm actually Bam.
this game sucks.
And this has been New Game Plus.